Not a rehearsal.
Hello, and welcome to Stage, Screen, and In Between. I'm Helen, and boy, do I have a show for you tonight. I am on set of a brand new feature film that is shooting one of its last days, and I have with me the star of the film, the very talented actor William DeMEO, and he's also the writer and producer. William, thank you so much for having me on set today. I am so thrilled.
No, really, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.
And William has very big name actors in this movie. He has ALEC Baldwin, right? And you have, tell me some of the names.
Michael Madsen, who's here today, ANNABELLA SCIORA, Mike Tyson, Joseph Donofrio, Ronnie Marmo, Danny Glover. We have a great cast.
And who's the director? But Paul Borghese. Paul is so terrific. You guys have come such a long way. I know these guys for over 20 years, and you know they're soon to be superstars, and I'm lucky that they're letting me tag along. So tell me, William, how was it? You filmed this back. You could have went on location somewhere, but you went back to your old neighborhood and you filmed back on the streets where you actually grew up and played ball. What was that like?
Well, that was really amazing. I shot a lot of the movie actually on the block I grew up in, West Street, and the movie's called Back in the Day, and I wanted to show Brooklyn how it was in like the late 80s, early 90s, and growing up in my neighborhood, Gravesend, Bensonhurst. And it was great to shoot there, and a lot of people from there welcomed me because, you know, I know people for years in the neighborhood. We shot at a lot of locations of friends of mine's, restaurants, and, you know, butcher shop. It was just, we actually shot at the house I grew up in, my mom's house. It was great to shoot on my block that I grew up in. It was just incredible.
You know, and it seems funny to have him saying back in the day because you picture somebody a lot older. So, but you know a lot about back in the day. Now, what were the reaction? Were there any people left there that you knew from back in the day?
Yeah, well, you see, so many people left Brooklyn that lived there when I was a kid, but when you go back, you actually realize there still is a lot of people that are still there. I mean, many have left, but there's some old school people who still won't sell, still want to stay there. I mean, my block that I grew up in is the block that I grew up in. Most of the people are actually that I grew up in still living there. Yeah. Yeah. So there's and a lot of the restaurants and stores and stuff like that. A lot of same people are still there too. So
now let me ask you. You play a boxer in this film, and you always had a desire to do that. Was there a movie or an incident that inspired you that you wanted to do that?
Well, you know, of course, like Rocky, Raging Bull. I mean, I always pictured myself possibly being able to, you know, I love boxing movies. I mean, from The Fighter to Rocky to Raging Bull. I've just always had a passion to play an actual fighter. And what took me to the script, I kind of wanted to play this role for a while, like I said, and I really trained really hard for over the last year and a half.
How long did it take you to write this?
It took me about 6 months to write the script, but I kept...
That's not too bad.
Yeah, and I kept reworking it, and to a point where I felt like it was really tight, and I'm very passionate about what I put together.
And what was it like to get your body back into shape? Because, you know, to be a boxer, I don't have to tell you, you have to be an athlete. What was that like, the training?
The training wasn't really the hardest part. The hardest part was probably the diet, because I went on a very strict diet to, you know, really get myself very cut for this film. I've worked out, you know, my whole life pretty much, but I really want to take it to another level. I trained a lot with boxing. I've trained with a gym in Morris Park by Joe DeGuardier, who runs Star Boxing. He put me with a really good trainer, and I trained continuously for over a year. And the diet was probably the hardest part, because to keep, you know, a lot of the foods that I normally eat, I wasn't eating anymore.
Well, to get you to this point, you know, this wasn't your starting point. You've been on The Sopranos, and you were on A Bronx Tale, and you won the Best Actor at the New York International Film Festival for Wannabe. So it's been a long road. This didn't happen overnight. How long have you been acting?
I've been acting for about 20 years, and you know, I kept at it. The main thing is that, like, for any people who, like, struggling actors who actually have this dream for themselves, and all that we go through, and all of the hurdles, and all this discouragement that happens, that goes with being an actor, you just have to keep believing in yourself, and keep believing that tomorrow will be the day that something big can happen for you. And, you know, I kept sticking with it and going with it, and keep, you know, through all the discouragement through the years, and just really kept my confidence level up.
Yes, and you had perseverance. How hard is it to wear so many hats? Because you are the writer, the main actor, the producer. Is it hard for you, or, you know, you've been involved in this, like you said, now for 20 years. Is it easy for you?
Well, it's never easy, but the reason why I can wear these hats is because I put a really good team around me that I trust. I have, you know, great other producers that are working with me. I have a really good crew. I have a great director. I have great actors. I mean, the casting process, you cast the right actors, it makes your job much easier. People don't realize that, like, what happens so much is what happens with preparation and preparing, and getting the right people is more of a process than actually doing it, because if you get the right people, they're going to deliver. Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? That's pretty much to get the right people is the main thing for me. Yeah.
And speaking of that, did you have the problem, like, gee, I want to have an actor and he loves the script, but he might have a conflict? I mean, did you have worries like that came up?
Well, anytime you have the talent that we have in our movie, for instance, Michael Madsen, who has a big role in the movie, we had to wait a little while to get him back on set, because he's starring in Quentin Tarantino's movie.
Wow, yeah. But worth waiting for.
Yeah, exactly, The Hateful Eight. So that happens sometimes, but, you know, fortunately we have actors that are very passionate about this project and believe in it. And, you know, I got to say that, you know, these big names have been great. Just regular people coming on set, giving me their all, giving Paul their all, and there's no egos here.
Yeah. And speaking of regular people, you have a regular person on set who is actually a very special person. Your son Christian is playing a teenage Anthony. Am I correct?
Yes. Well, when I first started with this, I was looking for a character to play me as a young kid, and we had a lot of auditions, and my son has been reading the script with me over and over and over and over again, and we've been practicing. And when he came in, you know, to audition, to be honest with you, my son earned the role more than anything else, because when it first started, it's kind of hard when you have someone in your family, someone you love tremendously, and when you make a movie, it's all about the right person no matter what. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yep. There's too much involved. Yep.
There's too much on the line.
Yeah.
So before we started this process, Judy Henderson, our casting director, I mentioned my son was coming in. She welcomed it. And I said at the end of the day that if my son isn't the best person for the role, he's not going to get the role. Yeah. Straight up.
Yeah.
And
that's the fair way to do it. You don't have a choice. You know, that was good that you said that.
At the end of the day, when we had all the reads, Judy Henderson, who won an Emmy, 2 years ago, by the way, said to me that your son was the best one for the role. And I'm very proud because I feel like Christian DeMEO delivers to the fullest, and I think that when people see this, they're going to agree.
You know, I was talking to Christian earlier off camera, and he was telling me that, I said, you know, how long have you wanted to be an actor? You know, your dad does films. Have you wanted to be in one before? He said, yeah. He said, but my father thought this was the right one for me, and I feel that I'm ready to do it, you know. Exactly.
Well, I've done other films, again, and my son, you know, wasn't really right for anything, especially on a level of this. My son is half Puerto Rican. My character's half Italian, half Puerto Rican.
Yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to mention, because usually you pay an Italian guy, and this time it's mixed. Yeah. It's half Italian and half Puerto Rican, and I think that also is good because you'll reach more people, a bigger fan base also.
Well, people will identify to this because the character that I play in the late 80s is dealing with a lot of racial tension because he's in an Italian neighborhood that, being a Puerto Rican, it wasn't, you know, the easiest thing to be, living in a neighborhood where there was a lot of racial tension at that time.
It was a different time. It was definitely a different time.
Yeah, and I show that, and I show my character as a kid deals with major racial tension, and when he becomes an adult, the neighborhood has changed a little bit, but there's still a couple of people who still have issues with him being Puerto Rican, having Puerto Rican blood in his veins.
Now, I had seen on the internet that actually the movie starts kind of at the end. You're actually winning a championship fight, correct? And you go back and you show what your struggle was. Is that how the story goes, without me giving anything away?
Yeah, well, when I wrote the script, I wanted to try to be as different as I possibly can be. And that when you see most of these boxing movies, it's always kind of the same thing. The fighter, you know, you already know what the ending's going to be usually. He struggles, he wins, he loses. He loses, then he comes back and wins it all and lifts up his arm at the end of the movie. I didn't want that. I kind of show the beginning that he does good, and then he tells his story about how it happened. But when it all comes around, the audience is going to maybe think that you're going to be surprised in what happens. It's not your typical boxing ending by any way, shape, or form.
I know you write very well, and I'm looking forward to seeing this film. So tell me, what's next on the agenda for you?
Thank you for the compliment, by the way.
True.
Thank you so much. I have 2 or 3 other projects that are on my table now to act in. I'm doing a documentary on back in the day in Brooklyn. You probably heard, there was a strip called 86th Street that people used to cruise and stuff like that. I'm doing a documentary about that. I have 2 movies that are on my plate right now to act in. I have something with Megan Fox on my plate, and I'm going to start to write another script. And I would like to probably do a sequel of this movie within the next 2 years as well.
Let me ask you, because the name of the show is Stage, Screen, and In Between, and I know you're so busy writing and acting. Do you have any hobbies that you do, you know, when you're not doing this?
Well, my hobbies are, well, first of all, I mean, boxing has kind of became like a lifestyle for me, so
you're not going to give that up?
Yeah, so I train boxing like 2-3 days a week, and I'm going to continue to do that. It's a great way to train, a great way to get a little bit of your aggression out. It's great conditioning. I love it. But my biggest hobby is cars. I own some cool muscle cars, and I like to go to car shows and just to look at other people's cars more than show off my cars. It's just I have a thing for these vintage muscle cars. I have a 70 Chevelle convertible 454. I have a GTO convertible 1967. I have a Challenger that's all custom, a newer car. I just got into cars. That's kind of my hobby now.
Like they had back in the day.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, me and my dad, we share this passion together, and we go to car shows together, and we just, you know, we enjoy it. That's kind of something that I love to do.
Yeah. They are so much fun because it does. They don't make the cars like they did back then, and
that's when a car was a car. You know what I'm saying? That's a metal, real car. Just to look at some of the old cars, you can just look at a car and be like, I mean, looking at an old car that's really done up is kind of like looking at a beautiful woman like yourself.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, William, thank you so much for speaking with me. I am honored that you allowed me on this set because I know this is going to be your best movie yet. I have all the confidence in you, and there's a great buzz already, so I just know it.
Well, thank you very much, and I worked really hard for this, and again, I just want to say that, like, for anyone who's a filmmaker or an actor who struggles and, you know, tries to, you know, thinks about quitting, don't quit. Keep going, keep giving it your all. I mean, I kind of feel like with this movie that I kind of almost feel like the character, because the character that I play, he goes through so much struggle and struggle and struggle to get someplace. And when he gets there, he's kind of like floating, and it's like all comes together. And I kind of feel like in my career that I've been doing this and doing it for a while, and making movies, getting parts in movies, always on, like, right there.
On the brink.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like that this movie is the movie that I'm really floating for, and we'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Words don't mean anything. When it's on the screen, we'll see. Humbly saying.
Yeah, it's up to the audience. You know, if the audience likes it, the audience likes it, and that's the bottom line.
I believe that people are going to be pleasantly surprised.
Thank you, William.
Thank you.
How exciting is this? I'm on set with Paul Borghese, who is the director of this fabulous film back in the day, and he just got finished directing a scene with Michael Madsen. How did it go, Paul?
It always goes great when you're shooting Michael Madsen, Helen. So it was a great scene. We're almost finished with the scene, actually. We're on a lunch break right now, and we go back in, and we have a few shots left to get, but it's going really, really well. Michael Madsen is in the scene, and Jimmy Palumbo, and William DeMEO's son, Christian DeMEO, who's playing him as a teenager, and he's doing a fantastic job in the movie and a great job in the scene.
Yeah, he's a cutie pie. Can you give us a little information about what the scene was about?
Sure. Well, we're shooting a scene right now in the social club, and it would be circa 1989, which is the flashbacks of the movie take place during that period of time. And there's a scene prior to this where young Anthony is working in the butcher shop that he has a job in, and the owner of the butcher shops, his name is Jerry Velvanti, played by Louis Lombardi very well, by the way, kind of makes a move on him. It's not a very nice thing for a man to do to a young boy. So he winds up really letting out all his frustrations and really beats him up, because he's been like practicing on the heavy bag in the basement. And then a couple of the wise guys drive by and see this happen, so they stop to break it up, and then they bring the kid into the social club to talk to the character Enzo, played by Michael Madsen, to say, hey, we just caught this kid beating the hell out of Jerry Velvanti at the butcher shop. And he asks him why he did it, and he tells him why he did it, and then he realizes the kid's kind of basically lost his parents, and he takes him in under his wing and says he's going to help train him as a boxer so that he can really, you know, fight for money instead of just beating up butchers that make moves on little boys. So that's the beginning of a new chapter of the story, where he becomes a boxer for real and gets trained by Eddie Rocks Travers, the character's name, played by Danny Glover.
Wow. So that's really a very important scene, because it kind of catapults you to the next level in the story. Now, let's go back, Paul. You know, you just talk about this so matter-of-factly, and you become such a professional at this, being a director and an actor. And it wasn't always easy, but Paul was always very well-liked, because he did so much work with Gia and the community, and you know, charity work, and he was always lovable and shaking hands with everybody. But he worked very hard to get to this point, and you've been on The Sopranos, and you played, was it Joe DiMaggio in '61? Yogi Berra. And you name some of the things you've done, because you have a great body of work.
Well, first of all, thank you for all those compliments. Helen is really very complimentive here tonight. How much do I have to pay you for saying that? That was really nice of her.
My pleasure. No, my pleasure. It's the truth, because you know what, he doesn't realize, because he's just so busy working all the time. He doesn't realize that he's a very respected and looked up to guy.
Well, thank you, Helen. What you were talking about the organizations, and then, like Helen mentioned, GIA. GIA stands for the Guild of Italian American Actors, and back in 1998. I believe it was, I became the president of the Guild of Italian American Actors, and we increased the membership from about 67 members to over 500 members in the 4 years that I was the president. And I haven't really been that involved with it since, but at the time it was right in the heart of when The Sopranos was happening, and a lot of those and movies just prior to that, which really had used a lot of Italian American actors. Unfortunately, they were always in the light of playing, you know, wise guys and mobsters, but it was still work for Italian American actors. So that's a good thing and a positive thing. And so we were able to get a lot of the members' work, and that was something I took a lot of pride in. So I kind of put my career on the back burner. Although at around the same time, I directed my first film called Four Deadly Reasons. Yes, and
yeah, I was gonna ask you, because you were a good actor. What made you decide, you know, I'm gonna be a director? Did you feel that I can do just as good as the next guy, or was it something you always wanted? What was the reason that you said, let me be a director?
Well, I pretty much got into the business in both capacities at the same time. So I went to school, went back and studied acting and film and television production at the same time. So when I started in the business, I was doing both. And then I actually went in a direction, after doing a lot of work as an actor, into distribution, film distribution. And then after that kind of film distribution changed a lot in the early 90s, mid-90s, then I got back into production and more so into acting again, and then started again with really parallel careers. I make most of my living producing and directing, but I still have a large body of work as an actor, and I continue to act, and I'm playing a small role in this movie.
Yeah. What's the name of your character?
My character's name is Sal Sapienza. Not Al Sapienza, who we all know and love, a good friend of ours and a great actor, but Sal Sapienza. And William DeMEO, who wrote the screenplay, really wanted me to play that role. It's kind of a fun role, and we had a lot of fun together in a couple of scenes that we were in together.
Good. Now, you had mentioned distribution. When is the release date? Do you have a release date for this movie?
Well, it's an independent film, so we don't have a release date, but we expect... we anticipate post-production being finished in the late fall of this year, 2015, and we expect to have a theatrical release in probably the spring of 2016.
Yeah. So now, is this your dream list of actors? Because you've done other movies with big names, but have you worked with ALEC Baldwin before on your set, or any familiars?
Well, the biggest familiar on this movie is William DeMEO, of course. I've directed the last several movies of which he starred in. We've done a lot of projects together. Sometimes we collaborate and co-write. Sometimes we produce together. In this particular instance, he's producing, and he wrote the screenplay, and I'm just directing in this and playing a role in it. So I've worked a lot with William, but there's other people that I worked with before that we've brought back. But there's some very new faces on my set, like ALEC Baldwin. I haven't worked with before. Michael Madsen, Annabella Sciorra. These are all Danny Glover. So I'm very happy to be working with A-listers.
Yeah. Do you know, I don't know if we ever had this conversation, but I was working with Willie DeMEO and Vinnie Vella and a bunch of the guys, Joe Donofrio, at for a music video out in the Hamptons 20 years ago. And we were sitting in a van waiting, for our turn to be called. And we were talking, and I had said, do you know Paul Borghese, to William? And he says, no. I said, you two would hit it off really good, because he's the president of GIA, and he's very into acting. You're very into acting. And he goes, oh, really? He says, I'll have to look him up.
That's funny. Well, the way we met was we didn't know each other, and
Bronx Tale, was it?
No, there was a movie called Wannabes, that William's second movie. One Deadly Road was the first movie he produced, and then he produced this movie called Wannabes that was shot here in Brooklyn with Joe Vitarelli, who's no longer with us, God rest his soul, and Joey Donofrio was in that movie, who's also in this movie. And I saw, hey, I always did my homework and tried to keep my finger on the pulse of what was going on. I said, what's this Wannabes movie? A local New York guy has got this movie off the ground. And I went on a Saturday afternoon by myself to see a matinee of it. There was one other person in the theater, and I called him afterwards, and I said, hey, we've never met. I know you know who I am. I know who you are. I said, congratulations. And then from there, William called me in on the next project and said, I really would love for you to, read the script and be at a reading that I'm doing of the script. So I went, and he said, what do you think of the script? And I said, I think you should make a different movie. Let's make a comedy, because it was right after, long enough after 9/11 that I said, people need to laugh now again. So we co-wrote Searching for Bobby D. which was, we thought was a fun movie, and it was a comedic adventure. We shot a lot of it in Pennsylvania and a lot of it in New York as well, and I'm really, really proud of that movie. Carmen Electra was in that movie, and Michael Nouri, and there's just, you know, Sandra Bernhard. We had a lot of good names. There's just so many names that could go on about that. Mario Cantone. There were so many people in that movie.
Yeah. Now you're going to probably wrap tomorrow. Am I correct? Now, do you have mixed emotions? Is it a relief, or are you saying, you know, I'm going to kind of miss this? What are your feelings on that?
Well, yes, we're going to wrap tomorrow. It'll be 42 days of production in total, and it's bittersweet to finish. It's bittersweet because, you know, on one hand you're like, I can breathe. I don't have to do 14, 15, 16-hour days, and I can get into the editing process, which is a whole different creative process.
Do you do the editing yourself, or you sit in with the editor?
No, I don't edit myself. I have a knowledge of it, but I don't take that on. Ray Chung has been our editor for a while now, and he's fantastic. And we sit in together, and I supervise all the editing and, you know, make all the final editing decisions.
Yeah, and that's a tedious job because, you know, as much as you would like to keep almost everything in, and you have to start cutting it away and peeling it because you have time constraints. Let's face it. You know, it's kind of sad. That's how some actors end up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, I know what that feels like. It's happened to me. But, you know, you don't want to be less than 90 minutes, and you don't really want to be more than 2 hours. I feel like the first cut of this movie is going to be very long. I almost feel like my first cut is going to be about 2 hours and 40 minutes. And then I'm going to have to chop. That's where I'm going to have to get on the same page with William and say, okay, what are you willing to lose? And it's hard when you know, he's the producer and the lead actor in the movie. So it's even harder to trim the fat, so to speak, because it's harder for him to, you know, part with certain scenes or certain takes. But he's
absolutely, yeah. Now, any chance of a sequel to this? Is this the kind of a movie that you could have a sequel?
Yeah, actually, William and I have spoken about a sequel, and he has it all upstairs, up here in his head. So he's told me a little bit about it, but I'm waiting to hear more about it. I'm just trying to finish this movie, and if the audiences receive it well, there's always chance for you know, for a sequel. I always wanted to do a sequel to Searching for Bobby D. We didn't, but maybe we'll do it with this one.
Maybe that wasn't the one to do it with. Maybe this is the one. Well, Paul, thank you so much. I know that you've been working very hard, and it's a lunch break, and I want to give you 5 minutes to eat before you go back to work again. Thank you so much, and I want to tell you how appreciative I am that you let me on the set today. I'm really honored.
Thank you very much, Helen, and it's great to have stage, screen, and in between here with us on our set.